Hello, hello. I am just waiting for Mariah to pop on and we will get started with our 18th episode of Monumental Minds. Yay!
What? Yes. It
We did
worked.
it! That was smooth.
Yes, it was.
We actually
Well,
got
fingers
it.
crossed. Let's not talk too soon.
Welcome back to
Oh,
Monumental
gosh.
Minds, where every mind matters. I'm Megan Rose.
And I'm Mariah Raye, and we're the co-owners and founders of MR2 Connections Incorporated. And we're super, super excited to be here with you tonight doing episode 18, The Effects of Bullying. And we're talking about the long-term effects of bullying for those who are bullied, those who bully, and those who witness bullying. So not just the person getting bullied, and we want to talk about it all.
Yeah, because it truly has just such a powerfully negative impact on everybody involved, even if you just see it. And so oftentimes I feel like the witnesses' impact is overlooked. And whether you're affected by it or have the ability to affect change, it's just very, very powerful, even if you're just a bystander in a lot of these situations. But, yeah, let's just dive right in. I mean, it's pretty obvious that long term, psychologically, it's going to have a negative impact, especially if you're the victim in these situations. It has such a toll on the mental health, your self-esteem, the confidence, the self-worth that you have. It's pretty endless. It can stem into depression, anxiety, social anxiety. The depression really personally is something that I really struggled with, and just my sense of self in those situations. I just felt so displaced. It actually led to a lot of moving and begging my mother to let me switch schools because it had just become so much, so overwhelming that it wasn't something that I could face on a daily basis. At a young age, I just didn't have the tools that I needed to face those.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids have dealt with it in that way and have had to like move schools. And when we think about like that, there's something that has to be done about that. Because if kids are having to move schools, leave their friends, I mean, usually kids are apprehensive about moving, right? Because they don't want to leave everything behind, leave their friends behind. But to feel forced to because you're getting picked on, and to feel forced to because you can't stand facing those people on a day-to-day basis or what they're doing to you, or even in this day and age, cyberbullying in school, being afraid to go back to school because something has been said about you online. It's really crazy how much this really affects everyone, and there's such a wide variety of things that it affects, and that's what's so sad about it, because it can affect so many things, mentally, physically, your health overall. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something that's easily overcome either. I mean, it took me decades to even really realize, what a lot of the behaviors that I was, um, you know, portraying in my own life, the habits that I had formed were, you know, stemmed from deeply rooted traumas that I just never
Hmm.
was able to. I just didn't have the awareness there to really be able to heal, because until you're aware, like, how do you know? Um, and once I kind of took a step back, I'm like, dang. So, I mean, I'm like notoriously known as the gypsy. I love traveling. I'll always love that. But like, I just got so comfortable with moving. And it started with being so comfortable with being able to just switch schools like that, and to be able to leave an uncomfortable situation in the face of bullying or abuse or whatever it may come at. So it was easy, like pack up my bags. I like lived out of my boxes for years and years, even to this day. I'm finally establishing roots, and finally saving up for the first home of my own, and planting down and feeling, allowing myself to heal, and, feel safe enough to be able to put roots down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that I found to be really eye-opening. Is one of the things I found while kind of being a student on this subject is being bullied young makes people incredibly insecure, and that's like one of the things that oftentimes go over into adulthood when we're talking about the effects of bullying. And I think you're really stunted by it as a child. So when you get bullied about being one type of way, whether that was the way you chose to express your character or not, like then if you're being bullied for that, usually your automatic reaction is, okay, I'm not going to be that, whether it's what you truly wanted to be or not. So I think bullying so young stunts us and stunts our character growth and just our personality growth into like these bright, shining, beautiful, different, unique people to fall into these things so that you don't get bullied. And I think then as you get into adulthood, it's like, okay, now where am I? Who am I myself now that, I mean, hopefully you're not getting bullied like that. I mean, I think in schools when it's the hardest, I feel like sometimes, or in work environments, because you're there
I think
so
it's the most
much.
obvious in school. It's just like in your face.
Yeah. It's everywhere. You have, kids coming from all different home situations and then coming to the same place to spend 8 hours, main part of their day away from the home environment. And they don't know how to leave things at the door and things like that, like, so I think that's just where a lot of things unfold. But I think it does stunt a lot of growth in character and personality, and makes a lot of people insecure of who they really are and who they want to be. And that definitely goes over into adulthood. Um, I mean, it a long time before I started wearing makeup because I wanted to feel good for myself versus I have to wear makeup because I don't feel pretty out in public without it. So but I think when you start putting on the makeup just to feel good for yourself, it's a totally different feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one that I even still struggle with to this day is I very rarely am able to get myself to the point of feeling comfortable without the makeup on. And I have been able to lift that negative energy because at first it was just so negative on myself, like I need it, I need it, I need it. And it was like, no, you don't. But it does make you feel good, and that's okay. So to kind of flip that
Right.
and make it more of a celebration of yourself versus kind of demeaning yourself and putting yourself into this box of what you think you should be. It was
Yeah.
so much freedom in that, and it's just so empowering. Um, and I love the summertime for making me listen because it just makes it that much easier not to
Yes.
need it or wear it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that definitely comes from things of bullying from, like when it was like in junior high and things, it was like acne and things like that I would get made fun of for. And so like going forward when I could wear makeup and when I could cover all that up, that's of course where I first went because I had an insecurity from, effects of bullying from childhood. So yeah, it's so common between women that oftentimes you get bullied for some look or appearance because I think on women it's oftentimes heavier put on how you should look or act in that sort of way than it is men, although men do also experience bullying for the way that they look. Don't get me wrong, and I think it's not talked about enough. I would love a speaker that has been, I mean, I don't want anybody to be bullied, but if there was any male person who has been bullied, like we'd love to have you as a speaker because it's something I want to learn more about.
Right, and it happens, especially um, as sad as it is. I mean, we just heard the story about the AGT contestant being called Hammerhead his entire life because of a birth deformity that he had. And to be bullied and shamed for something that you have no power of is just low. I think it's just the lowest you can really go is to shame somebody for that. But um, even like with the acne you said, and even into adulthood, it's something that I've always struggled with. I've always had a lot of allergies and very sensitive skin, and I was well into my 20s, and I had somebody who was always berating me, saying that my face looked like a bumpy ass road. It was just like horrible, and it's something that never really went away, and it's something that I do take, I take care, it's something that I work on because, you want to be healthy and you want to take care of yourself. Um, but it's that negative voice is really hard. It just takes a lot to redirect your energy, but you can do it. And oh, Lord have mercy. If you're going through anything like that, just please know that you're so much better. And it really is a reflection of the person who's coming at you like that. They've got so much insecurity that they need to put other people down to feel themselves, to make themselves feel more powerful or more just inferior, whatever the situation may be. It has nothing to do with who you are. And it's such a blessing. I've been able to learn that for myself and be able to accept that for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking on like some of the bystanders of bullying, now that we've shared some of our own stories, I think it's important to remember that just the people around that are not even maybe necessarily involved, but just standing in the corner watching what's going on, they have effects of what's happening as well. Especially like I'm super empathetic person, so when I see something like that happen, it's almost like the way I feel it is almost like it happened to myself. So it does like deeply affect me and I deeply get emotional even if it's not happening to me. So like things like depression or anxiety, even for other people's situations starts to kick in. And that's something, well, being a student, like that came up, is that bystanders oftentimes have increased depression, anxiety, talking about the school bullying, oftentimes skip school, right? Maybe they've seen something, maybe they're afraid to be a witness, maybe they're afraid to say it, things like that for the bystanders.
And there's so much anxiety just being afraid of being next too. Like, when are they
Yeah.
gonna come after me? That was it's gut wrenching because I remember I wasn't always the one to be picked on, and it happened frequently. But a lot of times I was kind of, they would start at the bottom of the totem pole and work their way up when people were eliminated. I'm like, oh, this person switched classrooms, so this person doesn't go to the school anymore. Megan Delaney's gone. you know, and who was next? Really, it just
Yeah.
and it causes a lot of that energy that just lingers and it spreads. It's like it's cancerous. It's just a cancerous, poisonous, toxic energy that spreads from person to person, and that gets taken home, especially with children, because you don't know how to leave it at the door. You just don't. And gets taken out on family members. I mean, you're going through this with your daughter now. I mean, it has such an effect on the family, and it's so like it even like saddens you. Like, can you tell us a little bit about how it's affected you and your husband with being bullied?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a hard road. And like I said, unfortunately, it started so early. So this isn't the first time I'm dealing with it. I feel like when I first heard it, I was, even more just mind blown by it. Now I'm trying to figure out more ways of like, how can I help the situation? But, even further than I have. But I think when you get faced with that and it's like, it's your own flesh and blood, right? And they're getting faced with things of like, I'm fat, you're too big, you're too tall. Um, and in your eyes as the parent, right, that's like your perfect creation. So it takes a toll directly on you. I think like any emotion that my daughter feels, I can feel deeply. So like I think when she comes home and she's acting a little bit sad, like you can see she'll start to pull away. So that's a little bit sad. Like when you go to get dressed in the morning, there'll be a little bit more hesitancy of like what's she getting dressed in. So like now it's like, no, mom, I want a loose shirt. Like it can't touch her skin at all. It has to be loose, And so like when that stuff starts happening, I'm like, no, like we're going to rock a really killer outfit is what we're going to do, because you can start seeing just the effects and how she starts to change every little thing due to being bullied. And so as a parent, you want to be strong for them and you got to be that voice and you got to, just reinstill that confidence in them. And that self-love in them, right? Because like I said, it's really hard to stop the bully, or you can always, contact the office, contact the school, the teacher, all those things, and tell them that bullying's happening. And I think that needs to happen every time you figure out something like that, because it's the only way that we're going to make kind of a ripple effect on the bullying and the effects of bullying long term. But the best thing you can do is to reinstill self-love into your child and deal with kind of like the sadness and things that it brings you, kind of, you know, when they're asleep at night or whatever, and kind of deal with your feelings and kind of meditate on that. And remember also as well that, you know, there is things going on for the person who is bullying, and there's probably a lot of ugly feelings and things inside of that person. Because oftentimes you want to get mad immediately, like, let me see where that child is. And like, I want to know who they are, what's their name, you know, but that's just not the way to handle it. Like, bullying versus bullying is not the way to handle it. I think that's a lot of times when, like, when you're kids, you know, it's like, oh, I'm going to face a bully, I'm going to get tougher and stronger, and, you know, we're going to do it out that way. And we have to teach a different way to deal with it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, even the people who are bullying and victimizing people, they're going through it too, and they carry, I mean, into adulthood. You know, they'll carry that guilt and that shame with them, and I mean, I can only imagine what a child is going through for them to get that mean. Um, so yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just not. It's not a surface level easy fix for situation. And it's so hard for everybody involved, which is why we're talking about the effects, because it just doesn't really get talked about that much. You know, we'll hear stories about people who were victimized and overcome it, which is amazing, but there's just really so much more to it, and more, so much more that fuels it, and so much more that is affected by it. I mean, we just listed a few. I mean, the mental health effects stem into just hundreds of possible effects that it has, whether it be anxiety, PTSD, social. I mean, it was the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development did a study, and it's night and day the way that children develop when they've experienced either been the bully or been the victim of bully. And even they did the anxiety test on children who have witnessed it, and it was just through the roof, the numbers. And it has a very extreme effect, and it just can lead to so much. It can lead to the suicidal ideations. I mean, you just never know what people are going through, and you don't want to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. You know, we never want to say bullying is the cause of suicide. No, I mean, there's so much else that goes into it, but it can lead to depression, anxiety, those thoughts. So many people have been faced with this, what is my way out? And at that moment, ending your life seems like the only way out. It could lead somebody to that breaking point, and which is why we want to bring so much awareness to this. We'll say it over and over and over. Mental health and suicide prevention is the core of our mission, and the effects of bullying is just so severe, and it's just so crucial that we continue to advocate and talk on these things. And we love and appreciate you guys so much. Like Mariah said, if you've experienced bullying, because like men alike, and the statistics were crazy. Like 60% of men who were bullies have at least one criminal conviction on their record by the age of 24. So even like for that, like it just changes the trajectory of your life. So oftentimes when, you know, your motives change, your goals change, your attitude change, your energy changes, your actions change, what you're moving towards changes and shifts.
Yeah, I think you'll start to harbor a lot of anger and shame. I think we were talking about it before this, and I think you know, a lot of guilt comes from those people who have done reckless things previous in their life. It affects them later on when they're going through hard things. I know that one of the statistics I had read was like people who bully are oftentimes get involved in, you know, a lot of other risky behaviors because of that, drug abuse being one of them. And so, okay, so we get the bullier, right? And then it turns into drug abuse because they don't even know how to process what they've just dished out the past, I don't know, however many years, right? And then they get involved in drug abuse, and then things get dark. I mean, we know that we've been through drug abuse, both of us ourselves, and things get dark when you go down that path. And then you start to remember all these horrible things that you've done. And I mean, I've personally experienced that with who I lost. And when he was getting closer to the end, I now looking back and how many times I've kind of gone over the situation in my head. Looking back now, I remember that he was struggling with a lot of the more reckless things and reckless behaviors that he had done to people, and just being so just regretting it so much, and feeling it so hard, and just kind of wondering how horrible he must have made those, like really feeling what he must have put those people through, in those last, and towards the end, I couldn't put a certain amount of days on it, but the I guess recalling that memory and the feelings that he was going through really helped me remember to be also empathetic for the bullier, even though, right, that we oftentimes immediately, it's like you want to get angry with that person, right? Especially when it comes in a parent situation or something like that. But oftentimes it does come back around in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that it ends up in suicide or anything like that, because in that situation there was just so much more involved. But I think um, it does affect everybody that's involved. That fly on the wall.
Oh, you cut out there, honey.
That the person that's being bullier.
That whole last part cut out after. There's a lot else involved when it comes to when people decide to take their own lives, and then you blurt out. You're back, but
I can hear it replaying. Hold on.
oh.
There we go. I could hear it replaying for a second.
Okay. Gotta love the internet.
Yeah, I can hear it going. Can you?
It's still going? I don't hear it going. It's like the whole thing replaying?
Yeah, it's just echoing. If you have any last points, though, share that, and then I can do that. Yeah.
Share what? Wait, shit. We missed the whole. Wait, what did you say? The whole last part? I'm so sorry.
ADD is so hard. I'm like, what I say? The last part? No, you're good. Yeah, I don't know. It's still echoing on my side, so I don't know if it's gonna hear. Mm-mm.
Maybe we should just we'll do like a part 2 and come back for the second part.
Yeah, let's do that. That way we don't lose the point.
Intermission. Come back for part 2.